Hello and hi, my name is Raymond Woodcock. I was born in Conniskey in 1946. Up to the late 50s I spent many a weekend here at my nan and granddad's at 4 Fernbank down in the village. It was last Monday evening when I caught a message off Linda asking would I participate in the making of a short video of this wonderful village and talk about my thoughts and memories as a child and onwards. I straight away thought, what a lovely idea, a video of Northop Hall. Also thinking, how could I refuse after all the dedicated hard work that Linda and her team have put together over many years, putting together meticulous stories of who, when and where service personnel from this village were so sadly killed in wars around the globe. I hope what I have put together, remembering the memories of a boy of 10, 11 and maybe 12 who visited this village, as I said, all those years ago. My mother was brought up with her brothers Harold and Johnny, and her aunties Mary and Annie, who all have at some time in their lives lived at 4 Fernbank. This was and still is set in a neat row of 6 2 up and 2 down cottages at the bottom of the village. A number of years ago, my mother sadly passed away, and it was left to me to sort of clear the house out. When I was doing the sort of tidying up and the clearing out, I found a small suitcase there, and inside the suitcases there was different letters. There was birth certificates, death certificates, but very intriguing. I found some postcards, and I brought just a few of them around. There's an awful lot of them really, and as you can see, they're really lovely, and you know, even the keeping of them. They're 90 years old, some of these postcards. It wasn't until I'd had a good look at them and that I realised that they're not just basic postcards. If you can see, you'll see that on every one it relates to a birthday. So it's wishing my sister happy birthday, and so on. And as I said, when you think of, you can see how precise and in such excellent condition they are for the length of time. There's another thing that I did notice as I'm looking at the front of the cards. I turned to the back and I noticed that the addresses on them, and here's one here, and this card is off a sister Mary to Auntie Annie, my great auntie, and it's care of Mrs. Stradle at the cottage, Ford Road, Upton, Birkenhead. Another one here, Bryn Edwin, Flint Mountain, to Miss M. Roberts, Mary Roberts, again my great auntie, 8 Curzon Park, Chester. Miss Annie Roberts, The Willows, Ford Road, Upton, Birkenhead, and so on and so on. And just another one here, Miss Annie Roberts, Arnside Road, Oxton, Birkenhead, and I'm thinking, well, what are those cards going there for when they were, they're only in the late teens or early 20s, and I'm scratching my head there, and I started making inquiries of older relatives, and it was then that I realised that these 2 aunties, when they were in the late teens and early 20s, they were actually in service. And service to me, people in service was, God, hundreds of years ago, but to have great aunties of mine in there was, well, quite an honour in a way really, and quite a finding, so I was very pleased about that. One of the final cards that I found in there, if you can just look at that one, it's a card, and it's on the back, it's dated 1929, so again, this is 90 years old, this card, yeah, and it's actually from Northop Hall itself, so they were actually making postcards for people to send to people from Northop Hall in the late 1920s. So that's an intriguing part of what I found. By the time I was born, which was in Glenamorford, a nursing home down in Connaskey, my mum and dad had moved from the village to a new councillor house in Dee Road. Up to and around my 10th birthday, my time would be spent in Dee Road, where I had fantastic friends, fantastic neighbours, and a lovely steady start to growing up. One Friday, Mum asked would I like to go and stay the weekend at my nan and granddad's up in Northop Hall. This was to be the start of many, many fabulous weekends around the age of 10, so it's quite unique. Each Friday around tea time, Mum and Dad would walk me to the top of Mull Road in Connaskey. This was just past Fairbrook Avenue. Here we would wait for a single-decker bus to come chugging up the hill and take me for one of many, many weekends at Fernbank. The driver, Mum or Dad would pay the driver and also give me instructions as to where I was to get off. Over time, the driver got to know me. Numerous times I've been on the bus, numerous Fridays, so it's never a problem. Mum also explained that either my granddad or my uncle would be in the doorway waiting for me. On leaving Mull Road to go to Northop Hall, the bus would first pass what was known as the Roundhouse. Yes, this was actually, all houses are, they are sort of four sides, but this was actually very unique, I suppose, but it was actually a roundhouse, round chimney pot, a round roof. The house itself was round, and the family lived in there. And this was based at the side of the old Buckley line, which was opposite Wepper Drive. We would then go under the railway bridge, which is no longer there, and then straight up Mould Road, past, which I'm sure a lot of you will know, past Bryn Lane, until it reached the old smithy. And I'm pretty sure that even in those days the smithy was still about and maybe working, but I'm not absolutely certain. There it would do a left turn at the crossroads and carry on past the cricket club, left to the junction and down into Northop Hall. The bus would turn around by reversing into Bringwyn Lane to make its way back to Connaskey. This is where I got off, as Fernbank was only 10 yards away. On arriving in the village and jumping off the bus, as I said, I would be around 9 to 10 years old. I always, even to this day, remember this huge wall, and if you look at the photos behind me of Fernbank, you can see in the front of the row of 6 cottages that there is a wall that runs along the side of the main road, and it runs from number 1 to the very end, which is number 6 of the cottages. And there was a path either side, path by number 1 and a path at the other end by number 6, and that's the way you went in. You couldn't actually walk off the road and go straight up forward to number 2 or number 3 or number 4 or number 5. You had to walk around the end. The wall was always a challenge to me. There was no way I was going to walk to the end and onto the path to get to number 4. Maybe a devilish little boy, I don't know. Every time I would place myself opposite number 4 Fernbank and climb up the wall and over with my granddad smiling in the front doorway. Over the latter years, I have often walked along the side of this wall and realised it's only about 3 foot high. I am sure over the years someone had taken a couple of feet off the top of it, but why did things always seem a lot bigger in those days? Once inside Fernbank, my weekends would begin. Supper made by Grandad. Then we would sit and talk in this lovely dining room with a big black Argus stove and a fire, occasionally making a round of toast by placing a round of bread on a large fork and holding it in front of the fire. We would talk about my school in Connaskey, how I liked our house in Dee Road, and many more fun things. Eventually up the stairs I would go and fall into this giant feather bed with newly washed white linen sheets. And that was every Friday, white, clean, crisp linen sheets. I would just lie there staring out of the big back bedroom window across miles and miles of open fields. It really was heaven. Saturday mornings I would make a cooked breakfast, followed by a walk with my Uncle Johnny, across many fields, which is just over, again, another back wall at the back of the house. Off we would go and with Johnny and his dog. His dog's name was Jip. Always after a few strides, once we got over the wall and into the field, my uncle, I still remember it now, he would turn to me and he'd say, "Right, come on Raymond, let's go and get some rabbits." All through our many walks with my uncle and Jip, I never ever saw one rabbit, never mind catch one. The only consolation was during the months of August and September, we always came back with loads and loads of mushrooms and blackberries for my nan and grandad. Later, in September and early October, we always came back with loads and loads of chestnuts. To the left of Fernbank, there was another set of cottages, Pear Tree, and again, these are at the end of Fernbank. If you look on the picture, you can see like a gable end, and that actually was Pear Tree, hence the name, from the abundance of pear trees growing and clinging to the front of the homes. They must have been some special type. They were just clinging to the brickwork, but were always full of fruit. Lovely to see and lovely to eat. Across the road and slightly further down the hill, there was an iron hand water pump that got its water from a local stream. It's more than likely that these older cottages, like Pear Tree, not so much Fernbank, but Pear Tree, got their water supply from there before the pipes and taps ran into the homes. The opening in the wall is still there. I've looked a few times, but sadly I think the pump is now an ornament in somebody's garden. Just down the lane which leads to Connors Quay, there was and is a working farm. I think the chap's name who carried on running it was Mervyn. He's part of a well-known family in the village. As years went by, Mervyn used to deliver fruit and veg around Connors Quay and kept in touch with Mum and Dad, helping, of course, with what's going on in and around the village. Just back to where the bus turns, Bringwyn Lane, there was a lovely old shop there that used to sell loads and loads of sweets. It's strange what you remember, but I always think of the bell above the door. It's a proper bell, and it used to, the ding-a-ling every time you walked in, and as you was leaving it ding-a-ling, and it's just them things that leave an impression in you. The other thing that I always remember about the shop, it had a wonderful smell and an aroma in there. The aroma was also in my nan and granddad's home. Every time I would go into the pantry, which was under the stairs, this lovely smell of fresh food, veg, cooked meats, etc. It just hit you. It was something that always takes me back. I love that smell. Up on the left, there was a chapel there, and just past the chapel there was if I remember rightly, I'm not overly sure on this, but I think there was a bridge that overrun the road, and underneath there was a railway line, and it's quite possible that railway line went up to Buckley or even the old brickworks. Again, further up the village again, just past this bridge, if it was there, of course, was a small butcher's shop, and opposite a nice general stores. Slightly past the stores is still there, is the Presbyterian Chapel, where my Grandad Thomas, he was a superintendent there. Every Sunday, myself and my two brothers would have to put on our Sunday best, only worn on a Sunday, and after chapel we went. Again, on this photograph down here, there's a photograph of four boys, four boys outside Fernbank. Myself and my brother are the two boys in the black blazers at the front of there. As I said earlier, Grandad was the superintendent at the chapel, meaning he would unlock and lock the chapel before and after service. He would lay out the order of service and hymn sheets, and in general keep the chapel clean inside and out. This was also the place we had our lovely daughter, Suzanne's christening nearly 50 years ago. Across the road was the Institute, where I believe there was a couple of full-size snooker tables and a place for the men mainly to meet and chat. Behind the Institute was the bowling club, a place my granddad had many a happy hour during the long summer months. A game which I believe he was very good at. As we move further up the village, we come to what was a public house nicknamed the Bottom Monkey, a pub which is sadly no longer, I believe. Again, I remember just in a gully past this Bottom Monkey. There was often, as I said, I was only 10 or 11, but I remember it. Well, I hope I'm right anyway. There were 3 or 4 tinker vans always parked there, and they were these were vans that were horse-drawn. They were all painted in lovely colours, and as I said, they were in this gully just past the Bottom Monkey. They were there for a number of years. Strange what you remember. On the corner of a row of about 4 houses, terraced houses at the other side of this opening, past the Bottom Monkey. I remember vaguely a little shop there as well. It wasn't a busy shop, but it was a little shop. It was the first in the row of these 4 terraced houses. I don't remember much about it, but I can just picture it there. Across the road and slightly up was a garage, and again, whether the garage came on later on, I'm not so sure. And again, slightly up, another little shop, and a larger store, a co-op, another shop that had those lovely aromas as you walked in. 65 years on, I still get that lovely smell. As we move up the village, we come to the memorial to all the fallen service personnel from the village, who sadly lost their lives so we could have the life we have now. Once again, I would like to mention Linda and the team who have worked so hard in bringing this memorial and its surroundings up to the fabulous standing and focal point it now has in Northop Hall. Thank you, Linda. Next up is the second public house, the Top Monkey. As my granddad often used the Institute on the bowling green, I believe my uncle Jonathan Roberts loved his nights here with his friends from the village and his steelworks colleagues. Over many years, like others, I have asked where the Top and Bottom Monkey name came from, but as of yet, I still have had no substantial answer. If my memory serves me right, across the road from the Top Monkey there was a little post office, and even to this day, as I was driving down this afternoon, I noticed there's a plaque on the building that says the old post office, so I know I'm right on that anyway. And also maybe around that area there's a little school in the area where my older brother Michael quite possibly would have attended. As I said, maybe. I have a feeling I'm right on the 3, but again, not 100%. Again, higher up the village, there's a spar on the corner, and this road leads down to the A55. One day again, around the age of 10, we're living in Conisky. I remember my father asking, would I like to go for a walk with him up to Northop Hall? Strange, I thought. But off we went. It was more strange when we'd reached Fern Bank. And we walked straight past it, past my nan and granddad. Strange. Eventually reaching where the spar is now, we then walked down the road until we turned into a small cul-de-sac with about 20 houses in there. This is called Brookside. We carried on walking to the top when we entered the front garden, and Dad knocked on the front door. A man answered and asked us in, and we then walked straight through and into his back garden, where we walked to this old shed, and upon opening I saw this lovely sheepdog with 5 puppies. I remember my dad said to me, go on, pick one up, you can have it if you want it. I was so happy, and what a fab surprise. We had that dog for 14 years, and she's now buried in the back garden in D Road. Further up the village, just past the turning for the cricket club, is a large house that at one time was opened up as a restaurant. Myself and my wife have used it on a couple of special occasions years back, but its name eludes me. I'm sure someone will let me know what it was called. Again, further down this lane leading to Northop is a well-known restaurant and wedding venue, Highfield Hall. This was a place my father had his 70th birthday with all his family and friends. That doesn't seem that long ago, but I am now 75, so it really puts it into some sort of perspective. Another wonderful restaurant and hotel and wedding venue was Chequers, a fabulous place where a very special family member got married and where we all had the best weekend ever, the best. So finally, although my memories of this beautiful village stretch over 65 years, from the age of 10, when I look back, it's nice to know our family have over the years kept some contact. As I said earlier, my grandparents and great aunties and uncles have all had time at Fernbank. My mother was brought up and born in this village. I still remember many faces from the time visiting here. Irving from the farm, he kept in touch with Mum and Dad when they lived in Connorskey. My granddad, superintendent at the chapel. My daughter, christened at the chapel. My granddad again, a well-known figure at the bowls. And all those shops with their jingly bells and lovely aromas. My Uncle Johnny, a well-known character in his day. My first dog from Northop Hall, and of course Dad's 70th birthday, only here in Northop Hall. As a young boy of 10 and through my teens, I truly loved my time at Nana and Grandad's. The memories never fade. Northop Hall is so lucky in its being so close to the A55, so close to access into our fabulous North Wales, so close to Chester, so close to the unique Ripper Park. It even has its own little local, the Top Monkey, and a restaurant at the top of the village in the Highfield for those special occasions. I have lived in Rhyl for the last 15 years. It was where we got married 52 years ago. And if I wasn't so happy there, I would seriously think of this great village as my final home. Northop Hall, with all its history and lovely people, is always on my mind and in my thoughts. Thanks again, Linda, for putting us on the map of Wales once again. Thank you.